We're here to consider one bill. This is S3383, Unlocking Native Lands and Opportunities for Commerce and Key Economic Development Acts of 2025. We call it the Unlocked Act. This bill is old business from the last Congress. It's had a hearing and a markup. It was also passed by the full Senate. Senator Schatz and I introduced this bill to give all tribes 99-year leasing authority for their trust lands. In today's economy, a 50-year lease is just often not long enough to secure financing for major infrastructure and economic development projects. And it also doesn't make sense for Congress to keep passing separate standalone bills for individual tribes. We've already done that for about 60 tribes, and later today we'll hear bills that would extend this authority to even more. Lease terms aren't the only obstacle, though. Many projects are delayed by lengthy BIA approvals for right-of-way, which are essential to development. The Unlocked Act addresses this barrier by authorizing a self-determination process modeled after the Hearth Act for tribal leasing regulations. This will allow tribes to move their projects forward more efficiently. This is a good bill, and I'm pleased that I'm able to co-sponsor it with you, Vice Chairman Schatz. I also look forward to seeing it enacted so all tribes can fully take advantage of the opportunities that are available now and into the future. So I now turn to the Vice Chairman for his opening statement.
In the interest of time, I'll waive my opening statement and insert it into the record.
We do not have a quorum present at the moment.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we have a quorum present, so we can move forward. Thank you, Senator Cortez Masto. I now call up agenda item number 1, S3383, the Unlocking Native Lands and Opportunities for Commerce and Key Economic Development Acts of 2025. Is there an objection? Hearing no objection. The question is on agreeing to agenda item 1, S3383. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The bill is agreed to, and that concludes our business for today. And I want to thank the members for getting the business of the committee completed. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, now we move to the legislative hearing. We're here to receive testimony on 4 bills before the committee. The first bill, S236, sponsored by Senator Markey, would authorize 99-year leasing authority for both the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe and the Wampanoag tribe of Gayhead Aquinnah. These are the only 2 federally recognized tribes in Massachusetts. Providing both tribes with the same long-term leasing authority ensures parity and allows for longer lease terms that can spur economic development. Congress has enacted similar leasing authority for many other federally recognized tribes. The second bill, S1508, the Shivwits Band of Paiutes Jurisdictional Clarity Act, sponsored by Senator Curtis, would address a recent 10th Circuit Court of Appeals decision in the Lawrence case concerning subject matter jurisdiction over civil actions arising on Indian lands. This legislative fix would help ensure the band can fully engage in economic development on its lands, including providing certainty for what judicial forums are available when entering into contracts with third parties. The bill also amends the Long-Term Leasing Act to authorize leases of up to 99 years on land held in trust for the band. And next, S1513, the Lower Elwha-Clallam Tribe Projects Lands Restoration Act, which is sponsored by Senator Cantwell, would place approximately 1,082.63 acres on the Olympic Peninsula in the state of Washington into trust for the Lower Elwha-Clallam Tribe and designate the land as part of the tribe's reservation. The land is currently managed by the National Park Service. The bill also prohibits gaming on the transferred land. This transfer represents the final phase of the restoration of the Elwha River ecosystem and fisheries and would return stewardship of the river and culturally significant homelands to the tribe. And finally, S2735, the Shingle Springs Band of Mi'kmaq Indians Land Transfer Act of 2025, sponsored by Senator Padilla, would place 2 parcels of land in El Dorado County, California, totaling approximately 265 acres, into trust for the Shingle Springs Band of Mi'kmaq Indians. 1 parcel, approximately 80 acres, is currently managed by the Bureau of Land Management. The other is approximately 185 acres of fee land already owned by the tribe. The land would become part of the tribe's reservation, and gaming would be prohibited. The tribe intends to use the land to provide much-needed housing for tribal members, as its existing 160-acre reservation is fully developed and essentially landlocked by surrounding private development. I want to thank the witnesses for being here today. It's never easy traveling to Washington, D.C., but we really do appreciate your time and your advocacy, and I look forward to your testimony. I will introduce the witnesses that we have. First, we have Ms. Trina Locke, who is the Directorate of the Environmental and Natural Resources Office of Trust Services, Bureau of Indian Affairs, here in Washington, D.C. Welcome. We also have the Honorable Brian Whedon, who is the Chairman of the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe in Mashpee, Massachusetts. We have next the Honorable Tina Gonzalez, who is the Chairman of the Shivwits Band of Paiutes in Ivins, Montana. I'm going to have Senator Cantwell introduce our next witness, the Honorable Francis Charles. But before I do so, I want to acknowledge the Honorable Regina Cuellar, who is the chairwoman at Shingle Springs Band of Mi'kmaq Indians in Placerville, California. So Senator Cantwell, if you would care to introduce your witness.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chair Murkowski, and to Vice Chair Schatz for holding this important hearing. And I do want to thank our witness, all of them, but especially Chairwoman Francis Charles of the Lower Elwha Clallam Tribe. I reference your comments about traveling far, and I'm not sure you could get much further in the continental United States than where Francis Charles hails from. So thank you for flying all across the country, particularly when our state is in a massive state of emergency, to be here with us and to communicate. You have been chair and have served on the Elwha Council since 1993, so a long-time steward of our lands. As a council member and chairwoman, she has been on the ground and directly involved in the restoration of the Elwha River since Congress first authorized the removal of the Elwha Dam in 1992. And I want to thank her for her work over the years. Earlier this year, I introduced S-1513, as you described, Madam Chair, the Lower Elwha Clallam Tribe Project Lands Restoration Act, along with Senator Murray and our colleague from the House, Emily Randall. This bill would transfer over 1,000 acres of Elwha River land currently managed by the National Park Service and the Bureau of Indian Affairs to be held in trust for the Lower Elwha Clallam Tribe. These lands are just outside the boundaries of Olympic National Park and were originally acquired by the park for the purpose of removing the 2 dams along the Elwha River. When Chairwoman Charles, in her leadership over extensive planning and engineering, in the legislation that was passed here, the largest dam removal project in U.S. history took place from 2011 to 2014, opening up more than 70 miles of salmon habitat. The Department of Interior then acquired additional parcels for water infrastructure to support the tribe's new fish hatchery and the House of Salmon, which are included in this transfer. Since the tribe has remained steadfast and a great steward of these lands, now is time to return them to the Lower Elwha tribe. So transferring this would boost habitat restoration led by the Elwha tribe and federal agencies. It would also aid in the recovery of 5 species of Pacific salmon, other native fish, including Chinook, coho, chum, pink, sockeye, along with steelhead and bull trout. Transferring the land back to the tribe will help preserve and enhance their culture and natural resources along the river, and passing this bill also would be an important action for the tribe in this long efforts to restore the Elwha, its salmon, and its tribal ancestral ground. So I appreciate the chairwoman for her longtime leadership in the region, including Chairwoman Charles and I first got very acquainted when an unfortunate DOT project was planned right on top of their tribal burial grounds. And what was discovered by the tribe was that this is a 3,000-year-old ancient community, Chiwitsin. And smartly, we all decided to vacate and let them deal with the reparations of their own people and the historic value of that land. But that was incredible leadership by her. This is another credible leadership, very hard to do these kinds of things, but the Elwha Dam and salmon recovery is paying dividends, and so we appreciate her being here and appreciate your consideration of the legislation.
Thank you, Senator Cantwell. I remind our witnesses that we do have your full written testimony. It will be part of the official hearing record. We're going to ask you to try to keep your comments brief. You've got 5 minutes allotted, but if you can shorten that even, that's good. We do have another vote that is in the queue here, so it's just a disruptive process, but that's what we deal with. Let's go ahead and begin the testimony. Ms. Locke, welcome, and you may present your testimony.
Chairman Murkowski, Vice Chairman Schatz, and members of the committee. I'm Trina Locke. I'm the Directorate of Environmental and Natural Resources with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I'm an enrolled member of the Manda and Hidatsa Innu-Wickrah Nation from Fort Berthold, North Dakota, and a descendant of the Oglala and Minnekoju Lakota. And I'm currently working out of the BIA's Albuquerque, New Mexico office. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today on 4 bills that affect tribal nations. S-1508, Shivwits Band of Paiutes Jurisdictional Clarity Act. S-2735, Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians Land Transfer Act of 2025. S-1513, Lower Elwha Klallam Tribe Project Lands Restoration Act. And S-236, a bill to amend the Long-Term Leasing Act to authorize leases of up to 99 years for the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe Reservation and land held in trust for the Akina Wampanoag Tribe of Gayhead and for other purposes. S-1508, Shivwits Band of Paiutes Jurisdictional Clarity Act, would expand existing laws so that the band can agree to leases of their lands for an extended terms. The department supports the authority for the band to enter into leases for 99 years, as tribal governments are in the best position to determine the duration of such leases in pursuit of economic development. The department takes no position on the provisions of the bill regarding the state of Utah's jurisdiction. S-2735, Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians Land Transfer Act of 2025, would take approximately 204.15 acres of land in El Dorado County, California, into trust for the benefit of Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians. The bill will revoke Public Land Order 3309 and transfer the administrative jurisdiction of 40 acres of federal land utilized by the USDA Forest Service for the Secretary of Interior. Those acres, in addition to 45.3 acres of lands managed by the Bureau of Land Management and 118.84 acres of tribally owned fee land, would also be placed in trust for the benefit of the tribe. The administration supports conveying these lands in trust for the Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians. S-1513, Lower Elwha Klallam Tribe Project Lands Restoration Act, would place approximately 1,082.63 acres of federal lands managed by the National Park Service into trust for the benefit of the Lower Elwha Klallam Tribe and become part of the tribe's existing reservation. The department supports conveying these lands into trust for the Lower Elwha Klallam Tribe. The 4th bill, S-236, would extend 99-year leasing authority under the Long-Term Leasing Act so that the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe and the Akina Wampanoag Tribe of Gayhead can agree to leases of their lands for extended terms. This is a straightforward amendment on the Long-Term Leasing Act, which would provide parity with other tribes, empowering long-term planning for housing and other needs. The department supports this bill. Thank you, and I'm pleased to answer any questions the committee may have.
Thank you, Ms. Locke. Next, we turn to the Honorable Brian Whedon. Welcome.
Waniki Sugna, Tuswis, Mosquatanu, Tomas Masipia. I said good day, my name is Bearhart and I come from Mashpee. Good day, Chairwoman Murkowski, Vice Chairman Schatz, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Brian Whedon and I am the Chairman of the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe. We thank you for holding this hearing on our bipartisan bill S-236, an act to amend the Act of August 9, 1955, commonly known as the Long-Term Leasing Act, to authorize leases of up to 99 years for land held in trust for the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe and the Wampanoag Tribe of Gayhead Aquina. We also want to thank you and our great home state champions from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts congressional delegation, Senators Markey, Senator Warren, and Congressman Keating. All have been good friends to our tribe, and we appreciate their sponsorship and support of S236 and its House Companion Bill, H.R. 681. Our tribe played a central role in American history. We are the tribe that greeted the Pilgrims for the first Thanksgiving in 1621. Yet we suffered for generations as we were stripped of our lands and ultimately became landless. Only recently have we been able to reestablish a modest federally protected reservation within our historical territory on Cape Cod in Massachusetts. However, the communities around us on Cape Cod have become luxury tourist destinations, and home prices and the cost of living there have skyrocketed. In our own homeland, our people have a very hard time finding affordable housing and otherwise making ends meet, and our tribe has had very few resources with which to develop a tribal economy to support them. We need to generate revenue and create opportunities for employment to ensure that our tribe can achieve self-sufficiency and so that our members can afford the extraordinarily high cost of living in our own homeland. Our sister tribe, the Aquinnah, is in a similar situation, located on what is now known as Martha's Vineyard or Nopi, another vacation destination for the wealthy. Aquinnah needs this legislation to help ensure that it can financially and sustainably provide for its community. The Long-Term Leasing Act was enacted in 1955 to allow tribes to enter into leases for up to 25 years with the approval of the Secretary of the Interior. In the decades following, it has become clear that the longer-term leasing authority is necessary to enable tribes to truly and responsibly plan ahead for the next 7 generations. Since enactment in 1955, Section 415A of the Act has been amended something like 50 times to allow around 60 other tribes to enter into leases for up to 99 years. S236 would amend Section 415A again to include the Mashpee and Aquinnah among the tribes that have been empowered to enter into long-term leases. Providing this extended leasing opportunity will greatly empower our tribe to grow and diversify its economy. Shorter-term leases of 25 years do not always provide enough stability to attract substantial capital investments, whereas longer lease terms up to 99 years provides more financial security and may lead to lower-cost financing. Without the ability to provide these longer-term leases, business investment on Indian land is often discouraged. Economic development is especially important to our tribe because revenue generated helps to fund tribal government programs. At Mashpee, we are working to provide employment, education, affordable housing, elder care, health care, and language preservation. However, we need a healthy economy to be able to accomplish these goals. Just as important as economic self-sufficiency is the ability to exercise tribal sovereignty. Every tribe should be allowed to make its own decisions about how it wants to use its land. Tribal leaders best know their community's needs. Enacting S236 would help to empower Mashpee to make decisions about its own future with less federal oversight. Mashpee believes that all tribes should be afforded these opportunities equally. There have been repeated efforts to amend the Long-Term Leasing Act to provide all tribes with this leasing authority as an important self-determination and economic development tool. Mashpee strongly supports the bipartisan Unlocked Act introduced by Vice Chairman Schatz and co-sponsored by Chairwoman Murkowski, and we appreciate that the bill also provides tribes with greater autonomy related to the rights of way in addition to long-term leasing. We thank you for including consideration of S236 in the committee's hearing today. We urge the committee to do all it can to move this legislation forward to help ensure its passage in the 119th Congress. We also thank you all on this committee for the tremendous and important work you do for all of Indian country. Katabatush, thank you for your time today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chairman. We next turn to the Honorable Tina Gonzalez. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and distinguished members of your committee. Oh, sorry. Again, good morning, Madam Chair and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Tina Gonzalez, and I have the honor to serve as chairwoman of the Chivas Band of Paiutes. I have submitted written testimony that includes my tribe's history, our perseverance, and a more detailed background explanation of the circumstances giving rise to our need for this legislation. Rather than repeating that written testimony today, I will focus my development through long-term investment with developer partners, opportunities which can only be realized when developers have certainty that they can access a state court forum to resolve disputes arising under contracts or agreements with the Chivas Band In short, the Shivwits ban needs Congress's help to remove legal and bureaucratic barriers to our economic progress. Now, my ancestors were members of the Shivwits Band, one of several Southern Paiute tribes that have lived since time immemorial in an area that once covered more than 30 million acres across what is now southern Utah, northern Arizona, and southern Nevada. In the mid-1800s, settlers arriving in Utah Territory forcibly displaced by my ancestors from their traditional homelands, which drastically limited their access to water for their historical farming practices. Loss of access to food and water sources and exposure to unfamiliar diseases resulted in dissemination of the Shivwits population. The Shivwits Band was first recognized by the federal government in 1891 with the establishment of our reservation in 1916. The Shivwits Reservation was expanded to nearly 27,000 acres, with over 1,000 acres being added to the reservation in 1937. Now, today, the Shivwits Band Reservation covers about 28,000 acres in southwestern Utah, an area much smaller than our original territory. The journey to present day for the Shivwits Band has been long and difficult. The Shivwits Band trust relationship with the government in 1954 during the termination era when Congress adopted various laws and aimed at terminating federal obligations to Indian tribes despite termination and before our federally recognized status as a tribe was later restored. The Shivwits Band continued to forge onward, holding steadfast to our lands and culture. Eventually, the federal government walked back many termination-era policies, and in 1980, Congress passed legislation restoring the Shivwits Band federal recognition as a tribe. Since restoration, we have worked diligently to strengthen our sovereignty. While restoration has yielded notably improvements in our members' quality of life, it did not bring substantive economic development to Shivwits Band lands. As a result, the Shivwits Band has remained focused on identifying opportunities that will allow us to provide governmental services and employment options to Shivwit members and to become independent from reliance on federal funding. Today, rapid growth in southwestern Utah has created new economic opportunities, but our ability to put our lands to their highest and best use is hindered by the lack of clear legal framework that allows for resolution of civil disputes on our lands and the ability to offer longer lease terms that are comparable to standard lease terms for non-Indian lands. Without changes, the Shivwits Band will be unable to take advantage of current and future development opportunities. Senate Bill 1508 provides technical corrections necessary to allow Utah State Court jurisdiction over civil cases involving Shivwits Band that occur on our lands when the Shivwits Band decides to waive tribal sovereign immunity to facilitate investments. Civil disputes will have a clear dispute resolution option in a Utah State Court forum. If the Shivwits tribe waives immunity and agrees to state court jurisdiction, this removes a huge obstacle to economic development partnerships between the Shivwits Band and private sector investment. The legislation also ensures that the Shivwits Band's sovereign immunity remains intact unless explicitly waived by the tribe. This means that the Shivwits Band remains immune from unconsented lawsuits while having the option to consent to state court jurisdiction in individual contracts with private developers. The legislation also confirms that federal court is a forum option for civil suits involving the Shivwits Band. Without Senate Bill 1508, even if the Shivwits Band wants to waive immunity and choose a federal or state court forum to facilitate investment, federal and state courts do not have clear jurisdiction. Affirming the Shivwits Band's ability to consent to state court jurisdiction in individual contracts and agreements is essential to ensuring that we can attract outside businesses for long-term economic development, benefiting not only the Shivwits Band community, but local Utah communities as well. By passage of Senate Bill 1508, you would be championing legislation to assist the Shivwits Band in resolving barriers to economic development so that the Shivwits Band and surrounding community can enjoy the benefits of long-term stability and financial security. I'd also like to take this time to voice my support for another bill considered here today, Senate Bill. Oh,
I'm gonna ask that you wrap. We have 2 more witnesses, and we've got a vote here that we're gonna try to get to, so.
okay,
You can-
all right, I do apologize. I'd also like to take the time to voice my support for another bill considered here today, Senate Bill 236. This bill, like Senate Bill 1508, seeks to extend permissible lease terms beyond those limitations set forth in the Long-Term Leasing Act. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry to cut you off there, but we're trying to get everybody in.
No, you're good, thank you.
Let's move to Chairman Francis Charles. Welcome.
Chair Mikowski and Vice Chair Schatz and distinguished members of the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, thank you for the opportunity to testify on Senate 1513 to transfer certain federal lands on the Elwha River to Lorawa-Clallam Tribe in trust and reservation status. I am also want to thank Senator Cantwell for introducing the bill and the National Park Services for the work and our partner to contribute to the development of this bill. My name is Frances Charles. I am the tribal chairwoman of the Lorawa-Clallam Tribe and the Tribal Council. I have been on Tribal Council since 1993 and present as the chairwoman for the past 20 years. I flew 3,000 miles to be here today for one reason, to spend the next 5 minutes with you in person telling you how important this bill is to our tribe, how long we have waited, and how hard we have worked for it. Our tribe's reservation lands are located on the Elwha River where the flows into the sand of Juan de Fuca on the beautiful land of Olympic Peninsula. The Elwha River is the lifeblood of our tribe. The Elwha people have lived there for thousands and thousands of years, sustained by the Elwha River abundance, once 100-pound Chinook salmon runs, which provided food and ceremony for our people. This battle began in 1913 when the Elwha Dam was built just a few miles upstream from our homes. No one told us and no one asked us. The dam blocked 95% of the river, and almost overnight the salmon runs were destroyed, reduced to small fractions of what they have been. Since then, we have been working to get the dams removed for many years. No one has given us a chance, but in 1992, Congress had passed the Elwha River Act, settling in motion the process that led to dam removal. The dam removal process began in 2011 and was the last dam removed in 2014. We are grateful for each partnership we developed that led to the 1992 Elwha River Act and actual removal of the dams. We still have so much work to do to fulfill the restoration river runs throughout the entire habitat that are now accessible to the wake of the dam removal. I'm going to focus the remaining minutes on the statements for the land transfer on this bill because my written testimony details our tribe's lead-in roles of achieving the dam removals. The foundation of Senate 1513 was established in 1992 Elwha River Act, which specifically names our tribe as an eligible recipient of the former Aldril Reserve lands. None of the other entities named in the 1992 Act wanted the land. National Park Service, National Wildlife Refuge, or the state of Washington. Only Lower Elwha does. The large piece of the land to be transferred by the bill is the old Aldwell Reservoir site, a little over 1,000 acres. These lands are outside of the boundary of the Olympic National Park and a short distance from our reservation. The National Park Service no longer wants to hold lands at issue now, and the dam removal is complete. This land is an area of a great cultural significance to the Lorawa tribe. It includes our creation site spiritually that it's submerged for over 100 years. It is difficult to explain just how important it is to have our creation site restored to us. Since the dam removal, our tribe has led the effort to revegetate the site with natural shrubs and trees and remove the invasive plants. We also work to improve the fish habitat by constructing carefully placed engineered log jams in the water. The bill also transfers some small parcels of land that touches upon our reservation boundary. These parcels are needed for the water line that delivers water to our on-reservation hatchery, an important part of the Elbow River fisheries restoration. We need to move this bill along and get it passed in this Congress. Just last week, the U.S. House of Representatives passed the bill. Now it's time for the Senate to act. Elwha has waited for years for this. The Aldwell lands included our sacred ancestral grounds and creation site. We have been the sole leading tribes putting all of our resources and knowledge into the dam removal and the fisheries restoration process for the past few decades. We look forward to working and continuing to work with Senator Cantwell, this committee, and then Park Service to bring the last piece of the dam removal project to closure. Hotnitz, thank you, and would also like to thank all of those who had put a hand in making this transfer successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Appreciate the good work on the restoration there. Next, we will turn to the Honorable Regina Cuellar. Thank you.
Sekasen. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Makowski. Thank you for holding this hearing and for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Regina Cuellar, and I'm the Chairwoman of the Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians. I am pleased to be joined today by our General Counsel, Nicholas Bryson. I'm here to express our strong support for S 2735, legislation that would take certain federal lands in El Dorado County, California, into trust for the benefit of my tribe. This bill is critical to our future. It advances tribal self-determination, addresses an urgent housing crisis, and helps correct historic land use decisions that continue to affect our community. The Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians is a federally recognized tribe located near Placerville, California, in the western foothills of the Sierra Nevada. Today, our tribe includes more than 582 tribal citizens, about 140 of whom live on our reservation. Over time, we have worked diligently to rebuild our land base, growing our trust lands from the original 160 acres to approximately 317 acres today. Our tribe has endured dual displacement. In the mid-19th century, we lived in two villages, Pashuni, located along the Sacramento River near what is now downtown Sacramento, and Wallach, located near present-day Verona. In 1920, the United States purchased land for our tribe and informed our communities that they would have to move to this new location. This new home near Shingle Springs was known as the Verona Tract and was adjacent to a parcel known as the El Dorado Tract, which was land set aside for another tribe. When the United States purchased this for us, decisions made by the Bureau of Indian Affairs in the state of California soon deprived us of access to that land. In the 1960s, the Bureau of Indian Affairs signed off on the construction of U.S. Highway 50 through an adjoining parcel of land belonging to the other Indian tribe, and which provided our only legal access to our reservation. Our neighboring tribe was terminated, and the remaining land passed to individual members or was sold. As a result, our tribe was effectively landlocked for decades. No tribal members lived on the reservation, and our lands were unusable. It took more than 40 years for the tribe to restore meaningful access, ultimately by constructing a direct off-ramp from Highway 50. While that finally allowed us to begin rebuilding, the consequences of those historic decisions continue to limit our ability to meet the needs of our people. Today, we face a severe housing crisis. We currently have 198 families on our housing wait list. For nearly 20 years, the only way a tribal member could receive a home was through inheritance, because no new housing was available. Only in the past year were we able to build 20 new homes, which falls far short of meeting the demand. We attempted to address this need by purchasing homes in nearby subdivisions, but that approach is inefficient, expensive, and diverts tribal resources away from infrastructure and essential services. We need land where we can plan and build housing in a sustainable and culturally appropriate way. S 2735 provides that opportunity. The bill would place into trust approximately 85 acres of Bureau of Land Management land, as well as the 188-acre Indian Creek Ranch property, which the tribe already owns in fee. Indian Creek Ranch is located less than a 5-minute drive from our tribal headquarters and was approved by El Dorado County in 2009 for a subdivision of 75 residential lots. Those approvals remain in place, making this property a rare and timely solution to our housing needs. This adjacent BLM land has never been developed and poses a wildfire risk. The tribe has already taken responsibility for managing and maintaining this land. If transferred into trust, it would remain open space with no plans for development and would continue to be managed responsibly to reduce fire danger. While we have generally had positive experiences with the Bureau of Indian Affairs Fee to Trust process, the current backlog can delay projects for years. We currently have a Fee to Trust application at BIA that has been pending for over a decade. Including these lands in legislation allows us to move forward with much more quickly to address our housing crisis. In developing this bill, we worked with El Dorado County, which has provided formal support for this legislative land trust transfer. S 2735 represents a thoughtful and narrowly tailored response to a long-standing problem created by historic federal and state actions. It will allow our tribe to provide safe and affordable housing, manage land responsibly, reduce wildfire risk, and plan for the future with dignity and self-determination. I want to thank the Senators Padilla and Schiff for sponsoring this bill and the members of the committee for your continued commitment to tribal sovereignty and land consolidation. Thank you again for this opportunity to testify. I respectfully urge the committee to advance S 2735, and I welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, and I want to thank particularly our tribal leaders that have traveled here today. I think each of you, different fact patterns, different scenarios, but the common thread here is these are matters that have been pending at issue for years and years, and now the opportunity to finally address them through legislation is what brings you here before the committee. Some of these matters can be addressed administratively, and as has been noted with the legislation that we just advanced in the business meeting prior to this hearing, we recognize that we have the need to step up with putting some of these fixes into statute. But Chairwoman Cuellar, you mentioned the backlog at BIA for land into trust applications as a reason why the tribe has sought legislation. And I want to ask, I want to direct this question to you, Ms. Locke, at the department. Just speaking to the issue of the backlog, I noted that you, Chairwoman Charles, were nodding your head in agreement when the statement was made about the length of time. Can you share with the committee what your understanding of the backlog is right now? How long the applications are typically taking to make it through the administrative process?
Thank you for your question, Senator. There is an 862 pending fee to trust case currently being processed by BIA regional offices and contract and compact tribal staff. We recognize fee to trust can be a long process, and the department strives to continually improve the time it takes to process necessary land transactions. In 2024, DOI updated 25 CFR Part 151, which governs land acquisitions by the United States and trust status for individual Indians and tribes. The updated process reduced the average time of processing land into trust applications from over 1,000 days in fiscal year 2022 to 650 days currently. The goal remains processing land into trust applications in 365 days or less.
So you're making progress, and you admit that you have not yet reached your goal. I acknowledge that. When you speak to the backlog being 862 applications in front of you, is that average? Is that high? I mean, it seems like a lot to me, particularly considering how long these are taking.
Yes, that it is a little high.
And so if the backlog is high, you're making progress in reducing the time period which it takes to process the applications. Is it staffing? Is it resourcing to the department? What would allow you to address these applications in a more timely manner? Legislation is not quick either. We get that, but I think sometimes you have to move to legislation because you just feel like you're spinning your wheels through a never-ending administrative process?
Thank you, Senator, for your question. I do not have the specifics at this time, but I will get that for you.
Well, know that as I'm dual-hatted here. I'm not only chairman of the Indian Affairs Committee, I'm also chairman of the Interior Appropriations. And so this is right in our account. And if it is failure to adequately resource, whether again it's positions, we need to be making the difference. I think we've put a little fire under the department on the matter of probate. I don't know if within your regions you have the same challenges in terms of unnecessarily lengthy probate, but I think we've got the Secretary's attention to it, and certainly that of the of Secretary Kirkland as we are looking at this. So sometimes we just need to be knowing how we can lean in with you and know that we want to do that. I also wanted to ask you, Ms. Locke, on S1508. So very clear what Chairwoman Gonzalez was outlining here in terms of the jurisdiction, granting the state civil jurisdiction over these Indian lands. Now, you've said that the department is not taking a position on the legislation. Can you share what the hesitation or the concern is? Is there possibly a concern that this is precedent-setting for other tribes or states that are seeking civil jurisdiction over Indian lands? What's the department's position on this?
Senator, thank you for your question. The department is supportive of this bill, as tribal governments are in the best position to determine the use of lands. We do not take a position on jurisdictional provisions of the bill. We understand that the band supports the bill, and we defer to them on questions surrounding the specific jurisdictional provisions and dispute resolution.
So would the department oppose the bill going forward then?
Thank you, Senator. I understand this is an important issue, as many tribes are interested in this leasing authority. The department is supportive of the two leasing bills before the committee. Again, the department does not take a position on the jurisdiction provisions, but understand that the band is here today and would be best to speak on those details.
Okay, I'm still not sure what position the department would take. As we try to advance measures out of the committee, it is important what the agencies have to say. And so we'll be working with you further on this. Let me ask one more question here regarding technical assistance. With regards to any of the bills that have been presented here of the four, are there any changes or technical amendments the department recommends that we consider for any of these bills at this time?
Senator, thank you for your question. The department is supportive of the bills before the committee today, and the department would be happy to provide technical assistance if required.
Okay, well, we will look forward to doing that. This is a question directed to you, Chairman Whedon. We've talked about the benefits of the 99-year lease authority. And you have outlined in your testimony why this is a priority. Is there anything that your tribe is looking at right now in terms of pursuing that would require this authority be in place sooner than later?
Thank you for that question, Chairwoman. We are looking at several opportunities for economic development on our lands. Having this authority in place provides greater flexibility and options when exploring these opportunities. I think we heard from majority of the panel about the housing costs and expenses, and that is both an issue for not only the Mashpee-Wampanoag tribe, but the Aquinnah-Wampanoag tribe as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm looking through my list of questions here. Again, I think what has been outlined in terms of the history that we have heard on these matters has been good and comprehensive, not only in your oral statement today, but what you have provided to the committee. So These are matters that that we will advance for full consideration. I know that we have members that are kind of coming and going throughout the day. I don't think you should take it as a reflection of lack of interest in your particular issue, but as we're trying to close out at the end of the year, there were probably 4 or 5 different committees, as well as 2 floor votes that were going on. So we will allow for our colleagues here to submit follow-up questions for the record. We're going to hold that open for a couple weeks, so don't be surprised if you get more questions directed to you from either other members of the committee or from myself or the vice chair here. So I thank you all for being here today, for traveling. I appreciate 3,000 miles. I understand you got some blizzard going on in Seattle. Clear it up before I try to go back to Alaska, because I have to go through. Yeah, we'll see one another out there. But I thank you all, and thank you for your participation today. This hearing is adjourned.